because the Fitch Gulf Employment Index is out. I've got a copy of the report in my hand, and I've got the CEO and founder of the company in the studio, Trevor Murphy. Good morning.
Good morning.
Headline is actually not booming job market. The GCC witnessed a 4% drop in the number of new opportunities in Q2 2024. We're so used to seeing booming headlines at the moment that this seems like a bit of an outlier. What's the story?
So compared to the same quarter for last year, quarter two last year had a 3% drop, 2 Eid breaks, end of Ramadan, weather-related slow week, probably slightly lower than we thought it would be, but overall I think it's still very steady, lots happening, good growth for the main.
Okay, well, let's talk about what we mean when we say the GCC witnessed a 4% drop in the number of new opportunities according to your index. How do you come up with that number?
Sure. So we run between 3,000 and 4,000 senior searches every year, and we work with probably between 7,000 and 8,000 organizations. So we take our internal data, we see how that stacks up on our market position within each particular vertical or practice that we have, and then we estimate our position in the market, and then we estimate based on where we are with jobs in those particular areas whether the numbers are up or down.
Okay, so you take the Fitch data and then you extrapolate that. So this is your best assessment of what the market is doing, not how Fitch is doing.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so why the slowdown? Well, you mentioned seasonal factors like the floods, like the Eid breaks, but what else is going on?
I mean, I think it's well documented at this stage that Saudi are looking at a lot of their bigger projects at the moment, and they're trying to understand what that next step looks like, where they invest, where they're going to get the best return on investment. And there's definitely been some movement and changes of plans there. And the dust is still settling on those. I don't think there's any concrete decisions made, but they are certainly looking at where they're going to get the best return on investment. Real estate has had
So they're not just throwing money at hiring at the moment in Saudi Arabia?
No. I would say that they haven't been for at least a year or two now. I think maybe there was a little bit of a buy position there before, but I think right now and for the last period of time, they are getting and doing the right things. They are looking at what projects are going to give them that return, as I said. But that's certainly a factor. Real estate, jobs down, maybe a bit of a summer thing happening there around, less jobs being created at the moment. Some of that's coming from Saudi again because of the size of real estate projects there. And we're seeing generally slowdown, accountancy and finance. Strategies had its second quarter of a reduction or contraction in jobs there. Again, kind of linked into what's happening, particularly in Saudi at the moment, around what projects are going to run, what projects are going to happen quicker or slower. So I think overall, the number's not bad, but we're certainly seeing a little softening in particular areas.
But you say the one area that's booming, and you highlight this, is tech, cloud computing in a weak market, up by 11%, for example. Cyber also gaining.
Yeah, they've had a tricky 3 quarters, and particularly the first half, second half of last year, and first quarter this year. The organizations that didn't migrate to cloud in 2021-22 after COVID, they're now taking this time to migrate. That's been driven a lot by the need to use that data and take data from the information that they have. So you've got a lot of organizations moving to cloud, a lot of consulting firms supporting them with that move.
Well, that's interesting. When you say there's an 11% increase in cloud positions, is this consulting firms hiring people who will be hired by big multinationals and regional players, or is this in-house hires by those multinational companies, the Emirates Airlines and so on of this world?
It's certainly more the consulting firms hiring to support that need or that demand. Right. There is a little bit of in-house requirements in terms of managing that process, but it's such a once-off transformation project that it makes sense to work through a consulting firm.
So one of our top stories this morning is another employment report out at the moment from Hayes, one of your peers in this industry talking about tech in particular and this influx of talent from Europe, because it said the salary differential, particularly when you take tax into account, can be massive. And we mentioned this earlier. If you're a engineer, you might be taking home 3,000 euros a month in Madrid after tax. You can take home 35,000 dirhams a month in the UAE. That's 2 or 3 times more. Are you seeing people in Europe looking at the salaries here and go, I want a bit of that?
Yeah, so the high demand areas, machine learning, AI, parts of security and cyber, and a little bit on the cloud side. Europe, Asia, and even North America, which is quite interesting. And that's the North America is going into California and trying to take those gurus out of those particular areas. So we've seen probably in that area specifically, there's been a real big influx. I also think that in the steady areas such as your typical finance or HR areas, they're coming within the region typically, but we're certainly seeing a good influx of people in that into the UAE and Saudi predominantly.
Right. Okay. That's the rear view mirror. The Gulf Employment Index looks at Q2, which is done and dusted. Let's get your crystal ball out. Summer lull in Q3. What about the final 4 months of this year, September through to December?
I think we're pretty positive about the outlook for the rest of this year. We're just entering into the first couple of weeks of Q3, obviously, but I think overall, we see a solid number. I would say we'll see growth of about 3 or 4%. We projected at the beginning of the year that would be the case. I think there's lots happening on the investment side, lots happening in the banking side still. So I think we'll see a very decent year overall, and I think we'll see a nice little bump of 3, 4, or even 5% into Q4 this year.
Trevor, good to see you. Thanks very much indeed for coming in early this morning. I introduced you earlier on as Trevor Murphy, founder and CEO of Cooper Fitch, which was remiss of me because I should have introduced you as Dr. Trevor Murphy, founder and CEO of Cooper Fitch, because a few weeks ago on LinkedIn, I noticed that you completed your PhD in my doctoral thesis explores the creation of an assessment tool to measure culture and corporate culture in organizations. Congratulations, Mabruk, Trevor.
Thank you, Richard.
Dr. Murphy.
Yeah, that's not something that sits easily on me, to be honest with you. But it was a very interesting journey.
How long did it take you, Trevor?
It took me just under 3 years. So, and not a PhD, but a doctorate in business, DBA.
A doctorate in business, DBA.
Less research focused, more business focused, but it took just under 3 years. And I started it when no one knew where the world was going to begin or end, which was during COVID I started. So it's been a nice journey.
Oh, well, congratulations on that. And we shall amend our running orders going forward to call you Dr. Trevor Murphy, because it's hard work to get one of those things. So congratulations. Trevor Murphy, Dr. Murphy, founder and CEO of Cooper Fitch. It's the Business Breakfast.
Dubai Eye 103.8.